say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
This evening's invocation will be given by Reverend Barry C. Black, Chaplain of the United States Senate.
Let us bow our heads for the invocation. King of the earth, the giver of every good and perfect gift, thank you for the blessing of the Phoenix Awards and for the men and women who have left indelible footprints on the sands of time. We praise you for the illustrious previous recipients of this award: Nelson Mandela, William Jefferson Clinton, Harry Belafonte, Susan Rice, Edward Kennedy, Simeon Booker, Danny Glover, Barack Obama. As we celebrate these gifted individuals and those to come, may we not forget you, the generous giver. May the pursuit of excellence continue to challenge us when we are too well pleased with ourselves. When our dreams come true because we have dreamed too little. When we arrive safely simply because we have sailed too close to the shore. May the pursuit of excellence continue to challenge us when, with the abundance of the things we possess, we lose our thirst for the waters of life, and having fallen in love with life, we cease to dream about eternity. And in our efforts to build a new earth, we permit our vision of a new heaven to dim. O God, let exemplary lives challenge us to dare more boldly, to venture on wider seas where storms will show your mastery, where losing sight of land, we will find your stars. Bless this evening our food and fellowship. We pray this all in the name of him who said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. No one comes to the Father except by me. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, Representative Donald M. Payne.
Good evening. Let me welcome all of you, family and friends. Let me thank you all for joining us to celebrate the annual Phoenix Awards Dinner, which is culminating events of the 41st Annual Legislative Conference. The CBCF's Annual Legislative Conference has become an incubator for the ideas and innovations that help us fulfill our mission to empower and improve the lives of Americans we represent. The legendary Marian Anderson once said that leadership should be born out of the understanding of the need of those who would be affected by it. I can't think of a better way to sum up the mission of the CBCF: to develop future leaders, to inform public policy, and to educate the people we serve. In 2010, we issued more than $715,000 in college scholarships to 538 students across the nation. We have approximately 8 fellows every year who go on to high-level positions on Capitol Hill, including chiefs of staff. There were 68 students in our internship program during the 2009-2010 academic year. In addition, we develop initiatives and host symposiums on health, the black male, financial independence and literacy, and conduct district-level programs throughout the nation. These are just some of our programs at the Foundation. The theme of this year's annual legislative conference is I Lead, I Serve. The Foundation believes that continuing to organize our efforts around this vision is critical to the advancement of our mission. Each of us has a responsibility to bring principles of I lead, I serve back to our communities. Leadership cannot be the exclusive domain of the elected officials. Everyone in this room, no matter your title or position, has the capacity to lead. Everyone in this room should be a leader in ways both large and small through daily service to your community. Yes, our country continues to face difficult times, and yes, our communities are bearing such heavy burdens today. But we know this: while we in Washington work to improve our imperfect union, our constituents are working across the United States, leading and serving. Over the past few days, we have had a chance to engage with each other and to share what you are doing in your own communities. It's critical that the conversations that took place here this week and throughout the ALC's entire conference continue throughout the coming year in cities and towns around America. But as we know, these conversations didn't begin this week or this year. They began more than 40 years ago when 13 African-American members of the House of Representatives joined their voices together to speak passionately on behalf of those who are silenced too often. Today, 2 of these founding members continue to serve in Congress. Congressman John Conyers, the Dean of the CBC, and Congressman Charles Rangel. And there are 43 CBC members strong this year. Tonight, we honor our founding members for building a force in the Congress that has endured for 40 years and lives up to the title as the conscience of the Congress. Thank you again for supporting and participating in the continued work of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give another round of applause to the esteemed Congressional Black Caucus.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's Phoenix Awards dinner. As Chairman Payne so eloquently summarized in his opening remarks, tonight is the crowning moment of the Foundation's annual conference. And what a pleasure it is to be here and to share the podium with an outstanding African-American and a gorgeous man, Hill Harper.
Hey, everyone. How was the dinner? Was it tasty? Okay, good. Maureen, the pleasure is all mine. You know what? You are a Washington, D.C. legend. You are incredible. In fact, when I'm in Los Angeles, I get on the internet and I watch WJLA. I see my favorite anchors. I see Leon Harris. I see the incomparable Sinead Simpson. I see yourself.
Good.
I'm very impressed with WJLA, the best local news in the country. So thank you for what you do for all of us, keeping us informed.
You're so welcome. Thank you so much, Hill. Now we have no way of knowing that you actually watch us, so we just have to take it for granted that you are telling the truth.
I absolutely am, and it's an incredible honor to be here on stage tonight. In the light of giants, our Phoenix Award recipients, Lisa Jackson, the fearless administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency. Yes, the champ, George Foreman, who has been fearless in and out of the ring throughout his career. Dr. Joseph Lowry, who spent his entire life speaking the truth to power. And one of our true heroes, a living legend, Congressman John Lewis, who has fought for us from the streets of Selma to the halls of Congress. And let us not forget the founders of the Congressional Black Caucus, who serve as the conscience of Congress every day. And of course, to the President of the United States of America. All of these are individuals who fought to guarantee our right to be in this very room, and those who still fight for our communities every single day.
Thank you, Hill. That is so right. And Hill, I'm sure you know the history of the CBC. The CBC was founded in 1971, and ever since that day, this dinner has continued to celebrate the achievements of our inspiring leaders. Tonight, that tradition continues. First, we would like you to join us in welcoming the President and CEO of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, Dr. Elsie Scott.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation Board of Directors and its staff, it is once again my distinct privilege to welcome you and to thank each of you for your support of the 40th Annual Legislative Conference. During this year's annual Legislative Conference, the Foundation launched the I Lead, I Serve initiative, aimed at furthering the most vital components of our mission, developing leaders. The Foundation has a proud history of opening doors to careers in public service for African Americans. Through our internships, fellowships, and scholarship programs, we have created a pipeline of Black leaders in government, private industry, and nonprofit organizations. These leadership and education programs continually create a cadre of young leaders who have the skills and contacts to generate the change we want to see both here in the nation's capital and in local communities. Many of the Foundation's alumni contribute to their success attribute their success to the opportunities that CBCF has provided early in their careers. And many of them continue to give back every year through the mentorship and support that they provide to new CBCF interns and fellows who are learning how to navigate their way around Capitol Hill and Washington, D.C. And so our programs allow us to water, if you will, the plant of leadership, which we must continually nurture and develop. As an example of our commitment to this 30-year endeavor, last year, our internship program placed 45 paid interns on Capitol Hill, more than any other program of its kind. This month, we welcome 13 interns, including 9 from the Emerging Leaders Internship Program, which is sponsored by Walmart, and 5 communications interns who are sponsored by State Farm. As part of their internship experience, CBCF interns initiate and complete a community outreach project that reinforces the vital connection between leadership and service. As Congressman Payne mentioned, the foundation also provides scholarships in a number of areas, including leadership, health, and environmental studies. One of the most important ways we nurture tomorrow's leaders is through our fellowship program. Many of our fellows have gone on to the highest echelons of American society. Some are serving as chiefs of staffs in Congress. They are serving as academic thought leaders, entrepreneurs, and nonprofit leaders. Please join me in recognizing our 2011 fellows. Waverly Garden, Onisha Herron, Ife Ike, Kamara Jones, Bianca Oden, Aday Tafara, and James Tinch. As we applaud our terrific fellows, I want to also applaud all of you. It is the support of everyone in this room that sustains the foundation and allows initiatives like the Fellows Program to succeed. We cannot fulfill our mission on our own. Without the help of sponsors, the foundation would not be able to carry out its program and events. It is through the support of corporate sponsors who share the foundation's vision and mission and understand the value of our work that we have been able to grow our internship and fellowship programs to bring health, home ownership, and community empowerment events to cities across the country. And of course, engage thousands of you who attend our annual legislative conference every year. So let me take a moment to thank all of our sponsors, especially our platinum sponsors here tonight, our gold sponsors, our silver sponsors, and our patron sponsors. I would also like to give a special thanks to the sponsors that support the foundation year-round. Our top sponsors for the past year include Coca-Cola Company, Dell Incorporated, ExxonMobil, State Farm, and Walmart. Those are our largest contributors to the foundation, and we are very grateful for your support. Now, there's an old expression that behind every powerful man or woman stands a patient spouse. As members of the CBC can attest, leadership comes at a price of less time to spend with family and loved ones. Without the support and sacrifice of their families, the members of the CBC could not continue their work. What's more, the CBC spouses play an integral role in the foundation's success. For example, the CBC Spouses Scholarship Program provides scholarships in key areas, including health, education, the performing arts, and the visual arts. Please join me in welcoming the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus spouses, Mrs. Marita Davis Johnson. Mrs. Johnson was the first black woman appointed judge in DeKalb County, Georgia. Mrs. Johnson, as I was mentioning, and you might have heard, she was the first black woman appointed judge in DeKalb County, Georgia. She's also a partner with the law firm of Burroughs, Johnson, Hopewell, Coleman, and she's the mother of Randon Alex and the wife of Congressman Hank Johnson. Thank you, Mrs. Johnson.
Thank you, Dr. Scott, and good evening. On behalf of the Congressional Black Caucus spouses, I want to thank each and every one of you for joining us this evening, for your never-ending support of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. We are professionals, parents, business owners, and office holders. But among all these hats that we wear, perhaps the most challenging one is that of a congressional spouse. We know better than anyone the hard work, the dedication, and the commitment required of a member of Congress. We see firsthand the emotional investment and the personal toll that the intense debates about the future of our country can take. As chair of the CBC spouses, I am so proud of what we have been able to accomplish. By awarding scholarships every year to deserving students from across the country, we have been able to support the CBCF in its mission to develop the next generation of leaders. Please join me in recognizing the members of the Congressional Black Caucus spouses for the work that they have done this past year. Mrs. Frida Scott of Georgia. Mrs. Vera Davis of Illinois. The Honorable Vivian Bishop of Georgia. Mrs. Simone Marie Meeks of New York. Mrs. Mariama Shareed Carson of Indiana. Mrs. Diane Cleaver of Missouri. Mrs. Emily Clavern of South Carolina. Dr. Maya Rockamore Cummins of Maryland. The Honorable Sandy Stephen Jackson of Illinois. Dr. Elwyn Lee of Texas. Mrs. Lillian Lewis of Georgia. Mrs. Choi Pon Corin of Michigan. Mrs. Alma Rangel of New York. Mrs. Carolyn Rush of Illinois. Dr. London Thompson of Mississippi. Mrs. Uleda Watts of North Carolina. Mrs. Gwen Towns of New York. Ambassador Sidney Williams of California. Thank you, spouses, for all you do.
You know, Maureen, when I heard that I was going to have the honor of hosting with you this evening, I did a little research on you, and I found out some things about you in high school. And I found out what your nickname was, and I know that you're very serious here in D.C., but you got to tell me, is it true that in high school, they used to call you Maureen Bunyan with that sexy onion? Is that what they used to say?
I didn't go to that high school. No. You got the wrong information. Did you Google me?
I Googled, I Yahoo'd, and I Binged you.
Well, whatever search engine you used was the wrong one. So you stick around after the program tonight, and I'll share my high school nicknames with you.
I thought you were going to say you're going to show me your
But
onion.
only...
I thought that's where that was going.
Listen, this is a very serious crowd here.
It is very serious, very serious.
And I have a serious thing to tell them about
Yes.
you. I understand that you and President Obama went to college together.
Well, actually, we went to Harvard Law School together, which is true. And along with someone I want to give a shout out to, Representative Terry Sewell was also our classmate at Harvard Law School. People often talk about the president being the star of our Harvard Law School class, but it was Representative Sewell who was the true superstar from Alabama.
A woman. That's great. And do you and the president stay in touch?
Actually, yes. The last time I saw him was at his 50th birthday party at the White House.
Wonderful. And what was his nickname in school?
Oh, we don't want to say that. But we can say that he actually knows how to Dougie quite well.
Okay. Well,
It's true.
the next press conference that I attend, I will ask him about that.
Okay.
Now, as you know, Hill, the strength of any organization is grounded within its leadership and staff, but also in all the people who volunteer their time, their talent, their personal connections, and financial resources to the organization's mission.
The board of directors of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is one of the nation's most dedicated and hardest working groups of men and women. This annual conference is just one example of their steadfast commitment to building the legacy of the CBCF. Every day they contribute to the foundation's work through support of the fellowship program, sponsoring interns, and a number of other initiatives.
Hill, the board of the CBC Foundation represents a cross-section of people from politics, government, business, and philanthropy. We would like to introduce them to you. And may I start with giving you the name of the chairman, our own Representative Donald M. Payne of the U.S. House of Representatives.
Yes. Now, y'all, this is a long list, so please hold your applause. We're going to get through all these names. President and CEO Dr. Elsie L. Scott.
Vice Chair, Ms. Shawnice Washington of Washington Solutions, LLC.
Secretary, Mr. Kevin Brown, Dell, Inc.
Treasurer, Mr. Virgil Griffin, The Boeing Company.
Ms. Donna Brazil, Brazil and Associates.
Mr. Shaka Burgess, Amgen Incorporated.
Representative Jake G.K. Butterfield.
Representative Andre Carson.
Mr. Kenneth Allen Charles, General Mills.
Also, our own delegate from the Virgin Islands, Delegate Donna M. Christensen.
Representative Yvette D. Clark.
Representative Elijah E. Cummings.
Representative Danny K. Davis.
Mr. Michael Drain, Strategic Policy Management Group, LLC.
Mr. Dwayne Farrington, State Farm Insurance Companies.
Mr. Frederick Humphreys, Jr., Microsoft Corporation.
Representative Sheila Jackson Lee.
Representative John Lewis.
Mr. Robert M. McGlotton and Jarvis.
Mr. Lewis L. McKinney, Jr., the Ashcroft Group.
Mr. Marcus Sebastian Mason, the Madison Group, LLC.
Representative Gregory W. Meeks.
Mr. R. Donahue Peebles, the People's Corporation.
Representative Bobby L. Rush.
Mr. Will Stevens, Johnson & Johnson.
Ms. Sharon C. Taylor, Prudential Financial.
Mr. T. Daniel Tierno, Heineken USA.
Mr. Yelburton Watkins, Office of Representative James E. Clyburn, Assistant Democratic Leader.
We love you, Yebby. That's right. Representative Melvin L. Watt.
Ms. Karen S. Wells, McDonald's USA, LLC.
Ms. Kimberly A. Woodard, Walmart Stores, Inc. Go on, Kimmy.
Mr. Howard Woolley, Verizon Communications.
Ex officio members, Representative Emmanuel Cleaver II, Chair, Congressional Black Caucus.
Miss Marie Long, Chairperson, CBCF Corporate Advisory Council, AT&T.
Mrs. Marita Davis Johnson, Esquire, Chairperson, CBC Spouses, Burroughs Johnson, Hopewell Coleman, LLC.
And Ms. Amy Robertson Goldson, Esquire, CBCF General Counsel.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the Board of Directors of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation.
Thank you. Now, this incredible dinner, I believe there are 5,000 of us here in this gathering. It's remarkable. And the conference, of course, that's taken place over this weekend doesn't simply come together because someone decided to do it. It comes together because of the dedication, the planning, the hard work of its co-chairs.
The co-chairs of this year's legislative conference have quickly established themselves as leaders, not just within the CBC, but in the House of Representatives. Please welcome our 2011 annual legislative conference co-chairs, Congressman Al Green of Texas and Congresswoman Marcia Fudge of Ohio.
Thank you so very much, Maureen and Hill. Friends, they have done an outstanding job. I believe they deserve a very special expression of appreciation. I would also like to thank my esteemed colleague for the outstanding job she has done. This event is a success because, in part of the very fine job she has done, the Honorable Marcia Fudge. Would you give her an expression of appreciation? And of course, we would like to thank the CBC staff and all of the staffers, CBCF staff, because friends, while Congress people can do a good job, they do a much better job when they have good staff. Let's give the staff an expression of appreciation. Friends, given our lack of jobs, we are 12% of the workforce and 22% of the unemployed. Coupled with our lack of wealth, the typical black family, the typical black household has wealth of $5,677, while the typical white household has wealth of $113,149. Given these circumstances, someone is going to ask, what did we do at this legislative conference? And when they do, you should tell them the truth. Why? Because if you know the truth will set you free. So let's take the axe of truth, slam it into the tree of circumstance, and let the chips fall wherever they may. Tell them, friends, that we had over 100 hours of substantive discussion on issues ranging from jobs to Social Security, jobs to Medicare, jobs to Medicaid, and jobs to education. Let them know that the CBC has a jobs agenda. In fact, tell them that the CBC has over 40 job-related bills. Tell them. Tell them that the National Town Hall meeting gave us an opportunity to tackle issues relating to unemployment and the labor market. And we did this by discussing ways that national leaders have approached the problem and recommended solutions. Tell them that our discussions were not just between policy experts, employers, labor, and industry representatives. Tell them that we included you, and we did so by providing you with direct interaction through open sessions, Twitter, Facebook, and other social media. Tell them that we brought high school students and teachers together for an interactive workshop about the CBC's role in ending apartheid in South Africa, and that we did it by using a voice, the CBCF's virtual library. And tell them that during the general session, we had at the luncheon we took this opportunity to celebrate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and honor his accomplishments by having those who are within our community continue to be recognized for the job that they have done, especially those who have worked to bring the memorial to our city, to this state, to this country. Tell them that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s son, Martin Luther King III, is in the house tonight. Martin, would you please stand and wave your hand? And tell them that we also had tonight Harry Johnson, who raised $117 million to bring this memorial to the mall. Harry Johnson, would you please? And finally, dear friends, tell them that the CBC, the conscience of the Congress, is alive, well, and ready to do battle with those who would privatize Social Security, voucherize Medicare, minimize Medicaid, eliminate the Department of Education, and eviscerate the minimum wage. Tell them that today our spirits were renewed at this morning's prayer breakfast, and that tonight we honor the founders of the Congressional Black Caucus. Tell them, tell them.
Congressman Green, thank you for being such an enthusiastic and tireless co-chair. Of course, the notions of leadership and service that we've built this conference around are not new ideas. Members of the CBC have been leading and serving from the beginning, and many of our conference attendees are living Dr. King's legacy. But it's time to spark a rebirth of that commitment. It is time to take it to the next level. That's why I Lead, I Serve cannot be something that we leave behind at the end of tonight's dinner. We have to carry it forward. We have to bring it home. Leadership and service are central to the Foundation's long-standing tradition of improving the quality of life for communities of color and preparing our next generation of leaders. So many supporters and friends are with us this evening that it would be impossible to recognize and thank everyone individually. I would like to acknowledge Washington, D.C. Mayor Vincent Gray, who is here with us tonight. But there are a few who have gone above and beyond the call of duty. We want to give special thanks to my co-chair, the Honorable Al Green from Houston, Texas, my staff, the CBCF staff, and all of the members of the CBC.
And now, dear friends, let me remind you that the CBC, the conscience of the Congress, does have a voice. And I'd like to present to you now the man who has been the voice of the conscience of the Congress, a man who cares for all and will not stop until everyone who wants a job has a job. Of course, I speak of none other than the Honorable Emanuel Cleaver, the chairperson of the Congressional Black Caucus. Would you give him a special expression of appreciation?
Let me thank my longtime friend, Al Green. We go back to the early 1980s. And of course, it is an unhidden fact about my affection for Congresswoman Marcia Fudge. And they have put together an inspiring weekend. I want to start tonight by thanking the CBCF for recognizing the work that our members do on behalf of our constituents and all Americans. Let me just say that in a few days, you will read about or see the Congressional Black Caucus becoming involved in an earth-shaking economic development signing. We are going to enter into an agreement with the Coalition for Education Success to do $1.4 billion each year for the next 5 years with black businesses. We're working. We squared off on fundamental questions of who we are as a nation, what we stand for, and what we believe. Through it all, the Congressional Black Caucus was at the forefront of this debate. We asked the tough questions. Unlike some of our colleagues, we understand the value of compromise in the name of progress. But we were steadfastly unwilling to compromise our core values. Some of you may have heard something else. We have a presidential election coming up next year. We are prepared to get down in the trenches when the time comes, but just because we're nearing the political season doesn't mean we're not going to focus on the 3 biggest issues facing Black America and, in fact, facing this nation. They are, and I want you to remember them, jobs. Number 2, jobs. And then finally, jobs. For 40 years, the CBC has led the way on policies that pave the path for opportunities for all Americans. Could our 13 founders have predicted that in the 112th Congress, the 3rd-ranking Democrat in the House would be an African American from South Carolina? Could they have predicted that the ranking members of the House Judiciary, Oversight and Government Reform, Homeland Security, and Science, Space, and Technology Committees would be African Americans, one of them even from Mississippi? Could those 13 original members of the Congressional Black Caucus have predicted that they would live to see an African American president? Not only that, God has given them a chance to see him get geared up for a 2nd term. Not that we're being political. Tonight, we honor the surviving founders of the Congressional Black Caucus. At the end of a week focused on leadership and service, we can all take a lesson from the legacy of leadership and service they exemplified. Please now turn your attention to the screens with more about our founders.
In America, when all of us in this room can no longer be the passive recipients of whatever the politics of a nation may decree for us as citizens within this realm.
We had to try and give representation to black people throughout America.
We came here to stand our ground and to fight for what we believe in.
It's time to eliminate the middleman. We'll speak for ourselves.
In unity, there is strength.
Black members of the House of Representatives, the group that calls itself the Black Caucus. Missouri Congressman William Clay said the president's rating with black Americans is now below 0.
We had confrontations with President Nixon. He really made us important by refusing to speak to us.
But the president could recognize, as we recognize, that he has a crucial role to play.
A statement that he made that struck us profoundly was, if I were you, I would be doing the same thing. I would be over here fighting for the rights of black people.
Martin Luther King Jr. said the most important step that an oppressed people can take is a short walk to the ballot box.
And the 13 of us could really make the difference and whether bills failed or whether they passed. We had extraordinary power in a very close Congress.
Yet the extraordinary strength we possess as a nation enable us to fix and hold our own course.
And we have in fact become the conscience of the Congress. When Martin King was assassinated, I was able to introduce the first bill to make his birthday a national legal holiday. It took 15 years, and it was finally signed into law.
One of the most exciting things as legislators is when we decided to tackle the South African issue, to attack apartheid.
A group of us went to jail because we went out and protested in front of the South African embassy.
Every evening there was somebody protesting apartheid. It raised public consciousness.
There was such an exodus of American firms from South Africa that when Nelson Mandela and I met, he said, you know, when I was in jail, they didn't call it the Wrangel Amendment. They called it the Bloody Wrangel Amendment.
They voted to change. I was there when they overrode the veto of Reagan and passed the sanctions bill.
Whether we disagree or agree philosophically or ideologically, it's something about these people who come here. They're unique, and the position they come to fill is unique. Metcalf, who was outstanding athlete in the 32 and 36 Olympics, then went on to become a successful politician in the city of Chicago. And then, of course, Gus Hawkins, who spent 56 years as an elected official and passed a lot of landmark legislation after he got here.
It's a strange way to make policy, if you can call it policy, which I do not.
There's a picture of the first caucus. And it was on the front page of Newsweek magazine. And every time I look at that picture, I see George Collins. We took that picture, and the next day he flew back to Chicago, and the plane went down.
The people that make up the Congress are fabulous individuals, and they have to be extraordinary in order for 500,000 people to decide this is the kind of person I want to represent me.
They all had their experiences, they all had their successes and some frustrations, and they all left their legacy behind to keep us inspired and working on the present and future challenges that our people in this country may be faced with.
I would like to ask my colleagues, Representatives Payne, Green, and Fudge, to please join me in presenting medals of honor to our founding members.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the founding members of the Congressional Black Caucus who are here with us tonight.
I don't know what the...
I think they're waiting for you to call their names. It's saying call their names, Al. There you go. Charlie Rangel.
Please welcome the Honorable Walter Fauntleroy. The Honorable Charlie Rangel, the Honorable John Conyers, and
Eric Hammond, standing in for his grandfather, the Honorable Louis Stokes. supposed to stay down. I don't know why they didn't. Also, we have our CBC colleague, Mr. Lacey Clay, standing in for his father.
Friends, please join me in a round of applause as we honor the founders of the Congressional Black Caucus.
Ladies and gentlemen, we come to a very special part of our program tonight. Our awardees will be presented. And it's my great privilege to tell you a little bit about the first awardee. Growing up in New Orleans in the 1960s and 1970s, Lisa Jackson had no idea there was anything unusual about being an African-American girl who excelled in math and science, although neither girls nor African-Americans were encouraged to pursue those goals in those days. She graduated Princeton University with a master's degree in chemical engineering. Lisa Jackson defied the odds. As the first African-American administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency, she has once again blazed a new trail. Today, she focuses on how the environment affects our health and our children's health. And she says, communities that are the poorest, that you might think would worry about more important things, understand that it is absolutely fundamental to their health to have a strong EPA that enforces the Clean Water Act and the Clean Air Act. Please enjoy this video, which will tell you much more about Lisa Jackson's life and career.
Has worked to protect the health and environment for all Americans. She's been named one of the 100 most influential people in the world by Time magazine 2 years in a row. Listed in Essence magazine's 40 Women Who Have Influenced the World. Called an eco-warrior by Rolling Stone. Labeled the Green Fighter in Newsweek. And titled The Protector by Black Enterprise magazine. But before these awards and accolades came the experiences that shaped her passion for environmental and health protection. Jackson's father and mother also focused on education. Jackson studied chemical engineering and environmental science at Tulane, hoping to find ways to prevent health threats before illness struck. She earned a master's in chemical engineering from Princeton University. Starting with EPA in 1987, she served in communities struggling with environmental challenges and saw firsthand the ways environmental issues touched everyday lives. She and her husband Kenny also became the proud parents of 2 boys, Marcus and Brian. Her youngest son, now 14, struggled with asthma as a child, a condition often worsened by air pollution. Jackson's experiences as a mother greatly influenced her commitment to children's health. In 2005, Hurricane Katrina struck the Gulf Coast and destroyed Jackson's childhood home in New Orleans. After evacuating her mother before the storm, Jackson returned to see how environmental damage affected low-income and minority communities. She dedicated herself to ensuring equal health and environmental protections for every neighborhood. In 2006, Jackson became commissioner of the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. She was named Chief of Staff to Governor John S. Corzine in 2008, but was soon nominated by President-elect Obama to lead the Federal Environmental Protection Agency. As EPA Administrator, Lisa Jackson has strengthened protections for the air we breathe, the water we drink, and lands where we build communities. She has also faced extraordinary challenges. After the Deepwater Horizon oil spill in the Gulf of Mexico, Jackson was named chair of President Obama's Gulf Coast Ecosystem Restoration Task Force and charged with leading the restoration of the region's environment and economy. As the first African American to lead the EPA, Jackson has continued to bring new voices to the conversation on environmental and health issues. She has focused on incorporating the needs of low-income communities, minorities, the elderly, and children in EPA's decision-making. For protecting the health and prosperity of American communities, the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is honored to present the CBC Chair's Phoenix Award for the highest standards of dedication and ability to EPA Administrator Lisa P. Jackson.
To Dr. Elsie Scott, to the Board of Directors of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, and to the members of the Congressional Black Caucus, I can only say thank you for an extraordinary honor. This is the Phoenix Award, so I decided to say one very special thank you to the person who helped me rise from the ashes. About 17 years ago, God decided to send me Kenny Jackson, and he is the father of my children. He grew me into a woman, and he taught me the compassion that is so much a part of my work today. I want to thank Reverend Chairman Congressman Emanuel Cleaver for being the Green Chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus, for realizing that this moment is about making sure that we expand the concept and the conversation on air pollution and water pollution to all of our families. This is a matter of our health. It is a matter of our future. Thank you all. I'm very honored.
Now, what can I tell you about George Foreman that you don't already know? What we do know, Big George, heavyweight champion of the world twice, a professional record of 76-5 with 68 knockouts, 1968 Olympic gold medalist, ordained minister, and father of 10. That's how he got the name Big George. What you don't know is that many years ago, my father owned an auto dealership in Reno, Nevada. It was an Excalibur dealership, and when George Foreman won his championship, he came into my father's dealership and he bought 5 Excaliburs to give away to people who worked with him. An incredibly generous man. Now, George Foreman has built a business empire that goes well beyond lean, mean grilling machines. None of us are strangers to seeing George Foreman's face on TV, but right here's a little bit more about his outstanding career in and out of the ring.
Outstanding boxing career, successful business endeavors, immense service to his church, his community, and to charity work all highlight his profound success in corporate leadership and social responsibility. Born in Marshall, Texas in 1949, George Foreman began scrapping early and fighting for what he could get, learning how to brawl and fight for survival on the rough streets of Houston's Fifth Ward. After traveling to California where he met Job Corps counselor and boxing coach Doc Broadus, Foreman started boxing as an amateur and in less than 3 years captured a gold medal in the 1968 Olympic Games. In 1969, Foreman turned professional and within 2 years was ranked the #1 challenger by the World Boxing Association and World Boxing Council. In January 1973, George Foreman defeated Joe Frazier to become the professional heavyweight champion of the world. It was after losing by decision to Jimmy Young in Puerto Rico in 1977 that Foreman had a religious experience and decided to give up boxing. He was ordained a minister and began preaching in his hometown of Houston, Texas. He founded the George Foreman Youth and Community Center in 1984. After a 10-year retirement, Foreman decided to return to the ring to support his community center. At age 45, George shocked the world to regain the World Heavyweight title in 1994. George Foreman is the greatest knockout boxer of all time, with 68 of his 76 wins coming by KO. By the time Foreman retired from boxing for the second time in 1999, he was already successful in business. Since the early 1990s, Foreman had been exploring his sales talents, and by the end of the decade had become highly prosperous in marketing the George Foreman Lean Mean Grilling Machine. Already a household name and globally recognized, Foreman also became the face of Meineke Car Care Centers and helped grow the business to over 1,000 franchises. In addition to his endorsements and other marketing successes, Foreman expanded his business endeavors, which include a line of environmentally safe cleaning products, an exclusive line of personal care products, a health shake called George Foreman's Life Shake, a restaurant franchise called U Food Grill, as well as successfully authoring and promoting 10 books. While he has been awarded for his achievements in the boxing ring and recognized for his business success, at the core of George Foreman's legacy is his ministry and charitable work, including most recently his Knockout Pediatric Cancer Initiative, which seeks to raise funds to benefit the Children's Cancer Hospital at MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, Texas. The Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is proud to present this year's ALC Co-Chairs Phoenix Award for Corporate Leadership and Social Responsibility to Reverend George Foreman.
Thankful to this wonderful man, Mr. Al Green, for inviting me here and giving me an opportunity to say something. All I ever wanted to do was knock people out and eat hamburgers. But Reverend Lowry, the past you've done so much, this is your work. And Dwayne Wade, the future belongs to you and your work. God bless you. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure to present
the President of the United States, Barack Obama.
Hello, CBC. Thank you so much. Thank you. Please, everybody have a seat. It is wonderful to be with all of you tonight. It's good to be with the conscience of the Congress. Thank you, Chairman Cleaver and Brother Payne, for all that you do each and every day. Thank you, Dr. Elsie Scott, President and CEO of the CBC Foundation, and all of you for your outstanding work with your internship program, which has done so much for so many young people. And I had a chance to meet some of the young people backstage. An incredible, unbelievably impressive group. You know, being here with all of you, with all the outstanding members of the Congressional Black Caucus, reminds me of a story that one of our friends, a giant of the civil rights movement, Reverend Dr. Joseph Lowry, told one day. Dr. Lowry, I don't think he minds me telling that he turns 90 in a couple weeks. He's been causing a ruckus for about 89 of those years. A few years back, Dr. Lowry and I were together at Brown Chapel AME Church in Selma. Oh, we got some Selma folks in the house. And Dr. Lowry stood up in the pulpit and told the congregation the story of Shadrach and Meshach and Abednego in the fiery furnace. You know the story. It's about 3 young men bold enough to stand up for God, even if it meant being thrown in a furnace. And they survived because of their faith and because God showed up in that furnace with them. Now, Dr. Lowry said that those 3 young men were a little bit crazy. But there's a difference, he said, between good crazy and bad crazy. Those boys, he said, were good crazy. At the time I was running for president, it was early in the campaign, nobody gave me much of a chance. He turned to me from the pulpit and indicated that someone like me running for president, well, that was crazy. But he supposed it was good crazy. He was talking about faith. The belief in things not seen. The belief that if you persevere, a better day lies ahead. And I suppose the reason I enjoy coming to the CBC, what this weekend is all about is you and me, we're all a little bit crazy, but hopefully a good kind of crazy. We're a good kind of crazy because no matter how hard things get, we keep the faith. We keep fighting. We keep moving forward. And we've needed faith over these last couple of years. Times have been hard. It's been 3 years since we faced down a crisis that began on Wall Street and then spread to Main Street and hammered working families and hammered an already hard-hit black community. The unemployment rate for black folks went up to nearly 17%, the highest it's been in almost 3 decades. 40% almost of African-American children living in poverty. Fewer than half convinced that they can achieve Dr. King's dream. You got to be a little crazy to have faith during such hard times. It's heartbreaking and it's frustrating. And I ran for president, and the members of the CBC ran for Congress to help more Americans reach that dream. We ran to give every child a chance, whether he's born in Chicago or she comes from a rural town in the Delta. And this crisis has made that job of giving everybody opportunity a little bit harder. We knew at the outset of my presidency that the economic calamity we faced wasn't caused overnight and wasn't going to be solved overnight. We knew that long before the recession hit, the middle class in this country had been falling behind. Wages and incomes had been stagnant. A sense of financial security had been slipping away. And since these problems were not caused overnight, we knew we were going to have to climb a steep hill. But we got to work with your help. We started fighting our way back from the brink. And at every step of the way, we faced fierce opposition based on an old idea. The idea that the only way to restore prosperity can't just be to let every corporation write its own rules or give out tax breaks to the wealthiest and the most fortunate and to tell everybody that you're on their own. There has to be a different concept of what America's all about. It has to be based on the idea that I am my brother's keeper and I am my sister's keeper, and we're in this together. We are in this thing together. We had a different vision. And so we did what was right, and we fought to extend unemployment insurance, and we fought to expand the earned income tax credit, and we fought to expand the child tax credit, which benefited nearly half of all African American children in this country. And millions of Americans are better off because of that fight. Ask the families struggling to make ends meet if that extra few $100s in their mother's paycheck from the payroll tax cut we passed made a difference. They'll tell you. Ask them how much that earned income tax credit or that child tax credit makes a difference in paying the bills at the end of the month. When an army of lobbyists and special interests spent millions to crush Wall Street reform, we stood up for what was right. We said the time has come to protect homeowners from predatory mortgage lenders. The time's come to protect consumers from credit card companies that jack up rates without warning. We signed the strongest consumer financial protection in history. That's what we did together. Remember how many years we tried to stop big banks from collecting taxpayer subsidies for student loans while the cost of college kept slipping out of reach? Together we put a stop to that once and for all. We used those savings to make college more affordable. We invested in early childhood education and community college and HBCUs. Ask the engineering student at an HBCU who thought he might have to leave school if that extra Pell Grant assistance mattered. We're attacking the cycle of poverty that steals the future from too many children. Not just by pouring money into a broken system, but by building on what works. With Promise neighborhoods, modeled after the good work up in Harlem. Choice neighborhoods, rebuilding crumbling public housing into communities of hope and opportunity. Strong cities, strong communities, our partnership with local leaders in hard-hit cities like Cleveland and Detroit. And we overcame years of inaction to win justice for black farmers because of the leadership of the CBC and because we had an administration that was committed to doing the right thing. And against all sorts of setbacks, when the opposition fought us with everything they had, we finally made clear that in the United States of America, nobody should go broke because they get sick. We are better than that. And today, insurance companies can no longer drop or deny your coverage for no good reason. In just a year and a half, about 1 million more young adults have health insurance because of this law. 1 million young people, that is an incredible achievement, and we did it with your help, with the CBC's help. So in these hard years, We've won a lot of fights that needed fighting. We've done a lot of good, but we've got more work to do. So many people are still hurting. So many people are still barely hanging on. And too many people in this city are still fighting us every step of the way. So I need your help. We have to do more to put people to work right now. We've got to make sure that everyone in this country gets a fair shake and a fair shot and a chance to get ahead. And I know we won't get where we need to go if we don't travel down this road together. I need you with me. That starts with getting this Congress to pass the American Jobs Act. You heard me talk about this plan when I visited Congress a few weeks ago and sent the bill to Congress a few days later. Now I want that bill back, passed. I've got the pens all ready. I am ready to sign it, and I need your help to make it happen. Right now, we got millions of construction workers out of a job. So this bill says, let's put those men and women back to work in their own communities, rebuilding our roads and our bridges. Let's give these folks a job rebuilding our schools. Let's put these folks to work rehabilitating foreclosed homes in the hardest hit neighborhoods of Detroit and Atlanta and Washington. This is a no-brainer. Why should we let China build the newest airports, the fastest railroads? Tell me why our children should be allowed to study in a school that's falling apart. I don't want that for my kids or your kids. I don't want that for any kid. You tell me how it makes sense. When we know that education is the most important thing for success in the 21st century, let's put our people back to work doing the work America needs done. Let's pass this jobs bill. We've got millions of unemployed Americans and young people looking for work, but running out of options. So this jobs bill says, let's give them a pathway, a new pathway back to work. Let's extend unemployment insurance so that more than 6 million Americans don't lose that lifeline, but let's also encourage reforms that help the long-term unemployed keep their skills sharp, get a foot in the door. Let's give summer jobs for low-income youth that don't just give them their first paycheck, but arm them with the skills they need for life. Tell me why we don't want the unemployed back in the workforce as soon as possible. Let's pass this jobs bill. Put these folks back to work. Why are we shortchanging our children when we could be putting teachers back in the classroom right now, where they belong? Laying off teachers, laying off police officers, laying off firefighters all across the country because state and local budgets are tough. Why aren't we helping? We did in the first 2 years. And then this other crowd came into Congress and now suddenly they want to stop. Tell me why we shouldn't give companies tax credits for hiring the men and women who've risked their lives for this country, our veterans. There is no good answer for that. They shouldn't be fighting to find a job when they come home. These Republicans in Congress like to talk about job creators. How about doing something real for job creators? Pass this jobs bill and every small business owner in America, including 100,000 black-owned businesses, will get a tax cut. You say you're the party of tax cuts? Pass this jobs bill and every worker in America, including nearly 20 million African-American workers, will get a tax cut. Pass this jobs bill and prove you'll fight just as hard for a tax cut for ordinary folks as you do for all your contributors. These are questions that opponents of this jobs plan will have to answer. Because the kinds of ideas in this plan in the past have been supported by both parties. Suddenly, Obama's proposing it. What happened? What happened? Y'all used to like to build roads. Right? What happened? Reverend, you know what happened? I don't know. They used to love to build some roads. Huh. Now I know some of our friends across the aisle won't support any new spending that's not paid for. I agree that's important. So last week I laid out a plan to pay for the American Jobs Act and to bring down our debt over time. You say the deficit's important? Here we go. I'm ready to go. It's a plan that says if we want to create jobs and close this deficit, then we've got to ask the folks who have benefited most, the wealthiest Americans, the biggest, most profitable corporations, to pay their fair share. We are not asking them to do anything extraordinary. The reform we're proposing is based on a simple principle. Middle-class folks should not pay higher tax rates than millionaires and billionaires. That's not crazy, or it's good crazy. Warren Buffett's secretary shouldn't pay a higher tax rate than Warren Buffett. A teacher or a nurse or a construction worker making $50,000 a year shouldn't pay higher tax rates than somebody making $50 million. That's just common sense. We're not doing this to punish success. This is the land of opportunity. I want you to go out, start a business, get rich, build something. Our country is based on the belief that anybody can make it if they put in enough sweat and enough effort. That is wonderful. God bless you. But part of the American idea is also that once we've done well, we should pay our fair share. To make sure that those schools that we were learning in can teach the next generation. That those roads that we benefited from, that they're not crumbling for the next bunch of folks who are coming behind us. To keep up the nation that made our success possible. And most wealthy Americans would agree with that. But you know, the Republicans are already dusting off their old talking points. That's class warfare, they say. In fact, in the next breath, they'll complain that people living in poverty, people who suffered the most over the past decade, don't pay enough in taxes. That's bad crazy. When you start saying, at a time when the top 1/10% has seen their incomes go up 4 or 5 times over the last 20 years, and folks at the bottom have seen their incomes decline, and your response is that you want poor folks to pay more? Give me a break. If asking a billionaire to pay the same tax rate as a janitor makes me a warrior for the working class, I wear that with a badge of honor. I have no problem with that. It's about time. They say it kills jobs. Well, that's going to kill jobs. We're not proposing anything other than returning to the tax rates for the wealthiest Americans that existed under Bill Clinton. I played golf with Bill Clinton today. I was asking him, how'd that go? Well, turns out we had a lot of jobs. The well-to-do, they did even better. So did the middle class. We lifted millions out of poverty. And then we cut taxes for folks like me. And we went through a decade of zero job growth. So this isn't speculation. We've tested this out. We tried their theory, didn't work. Tried our theory, it worked. We shouldn't be confused about this. This debate is about priorities. If we want to create new jobs and close the deficit and invest in our future, the money's got to come from somewhere. And so should we keep tax loopholes for big oil companies, or should we put construction workers and teachers back on the job? Should we keep tax breaks for millionaires and billionaires, or should we invest in our children's education and college aid? Should we ask seniors to be paying thousands of dollars more for Medicare, as the House Republicans proposed? Or take young folks' health care away? Or should we ask that everybody pay their fair share? This is about fairness. And this is about who we are as a country. This is about our commitment to future generations. When Michelle and I think about where we came from, little girl on the south side of Chicago, son of a single mom in Hawaii. Mother had to go to school on scholarships, sometimes got food stamps. Michelle's parents never owned their own home until she had already graduated, living upstairs above the aunt who actually owned the house. We are here today only because our parents and our grandparents, they broke their backs to support us. But they also understood that they would get a little bit of help from their country. Because they met their responsibilities, this country would also be responsible, would also provide good public schools, would also provide recreation, parks that were safe, making sure that they could take the bus without getting beat over the head, making sure that their kids would be able to go to college even if they weren't rich. We're only here because past generations struggled and sacrificed for this incredible, exceptional idea that it does not matter where you come from. It does not matter where you're born. It doesn't matter what you look like. If you're willing to put in an effort, you should get a shot. You should get a shot at the American dream. And each night when we tuck in our girls at the White House, I think about keeping that dream alive for them and for all of our children. And that's now up to us. And that's hard. This is harder than it's been in a long, long time. We're going through something we haven't seen in our lifetimes. And I know at times that gets folks discouraged. I know. I listen to some of y'all. I understand that. And nobody feels that burden more than I do. Because I know how much we have invested in making sure that we're able to move this country forward. But you know, more than a lot of other folks in this country, we know about heart. The people in this room know about heart. And we don't give in to discouragement. Throughout our history, change has often come slowly. Progress often takes time. We take a step forward, sometimes we take 2 steps back, sometimes we get 2 steps forward and 1 step back, but it's never a straight line, it's never easy. And I never promised easy. Easy's never been promised to us. But we've had faith. We have had faith. We've had that good kind of crazy that says you can't stop marching. Even when folks are hitting you over the head, you can't stop marching. Even when they're turning the hoses on you, you can't stop. Even when somebody fires you for speaking out, you can't stop. Even when it looks like there's no way, you find a way, you can't stop. Through the mud and the muck and the driving rain, we don't stop. Because we know the rightness of our cause. Widening the circle of opportunity, standing up for everybody's opportunities. Increasing each other's prosperity. We know our cause is just. It's a righteous cause. So in the face of troopers and tear gas, folks stood unafraid. Led somebody like John Lewis to wake up after getting beat within an inch of his life on Sunday. He wakes up on Monday. We're going to go march. Dr. King once said, before we reach the majestic shores of the Promised Land, there is a frustrating and bewildering wilderness ahead. We must still face prodigious hilltops of opposition and gigantic mountains of resistance, but with patient and firm determination, we will press on. So I don't know about you, CBC, but the future rewards those who press on. With patient and firm determination, I'm going to press on for jobs. I'm going to press on for equality. I'm going to press on for the sake of our children. I'm going to press on for the sake of all those families who are struggling right now. I don't have time to feel sorry for myself. I don't have time to complain. I'm going to press on. I expect all of you to march with me and press on. Take off your bedroom slippers. Put on your marching shoes. Shake it off. Stop complaining. Stop grumbling. Stop crying. We are going to press on. We've got work to do. CBC, God bless you. And God bless the United States of America.
Thank you, Hill. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Ladies and gentlemen, we know that you want to get a little closer to the President, and we ask that you please stay seated so that we can finish our two more awards presentations. The President will stay with us, and you will be able to press the flesh. So please stay seated. Ladies and gentlemen, our next awardee is an icon in our country, an icon of the civil rights movement and the human rights movement, a true leader. If leadership means speaking truth to power, Dr. Joseph Lowry has been a leader for all of his adult life. As the Dean of the Civil Rights Movement, Dr. Lowry continues to fight injustice and promote inclusion day in and day out. Speaking in front of 4 United States presidents at Coretta Scott King's funeral in 2006, Dr. Lowry spoke of the weapons of misdirection tearing at the core of our society. He said, "Millions without health insurance, poverty abounds, for war, billions more, but no more for the poor." That's what the CBC is all about, speaking the unvarnished, unfiltered truth, even when it is not convenient, even when it is uncomfortable. For that and so much more, tonight we honor Dr. Joseph Lowry.
Reverend Joseph E. Lowry is considered to be the dean of the civil rights movement. Lowry began his work with civil rights in the early 1950s in Mobile, Alabama, where he headed the Alabama Civic Affairs Association. In 1957, Lowry, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and others formed the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, where Lowry served as vice president. In 1965, Dr. Lowry was named chairman of the delegation to take demands of the Selma to Montgomery March to then Governor of Alabama, George Wallace. With the world watching, Wallace ordered the marchers beaten in an incident that became known as Bloody Sunday. This event ultimately led to the passing of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. As a United Methodist minister, he presided over an annual conference as acting bishop in 1966. His leadership was instrumental in moving the church toward the goal of inclusiveness. Lowry is a co-founder and former president of the Black Leadership Forum, a consortium of national Black advocacy groups. The forum began protesting apartheid in South Africa in the mid-1970s and continued until the election of Nelson Mandela. After becoming president of the SCLC in February of 1977, Lowry negotiated agreements with major corporations for employment advances, opportunities, and business contracts with minority companies. After serving his community for nearly a half-century, he retired as pastor in 1992, and in January of 1998, he retired from the SCLC as president and CEO, having served in that capacity over 20 years. Despite his retirement, Lowry still remains active in civil rights and social justice. He authored his first book, Singing the Lord's Song in a Strange Land, earlier this year. Dr. Lowry has received numerous awards, including Lifetime Achievement Awards from the NEA, NAACP, the Urban League, Martin Luther King Center, and Ebony has twice named him one of the 15 greatest Black preachers. In January 2009, Dr. Lowry delivered the benediction at President Obama's inauguration as the 44th President of the United States. Later that year, President Obama awarded Lowry the nation's highest civilian honor, the Presidential Medal of Freedom, in recognition of his lifelong commitment to nonviolent struggle for justice, human rights, economic equality, voting rights, peace, and human dignity. Lowry's sustained efforts to combat injustice and promote equal opportunities have led to landmark decisions. In honor of his service and numerous achievements, the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is proud to present the George Thomas Mickey Leland Phoenix Award to Reverend Dr. Joseph Eccles Lowry.
The presentation will be made.
Thank you very much. They told me to be brief because some fella took my time, which is all right. I'm grateful for this honor. I'm so proud of the work that the caucus does day in and day out, a thankless task too often. I'm proud to have an award in my house with the name of Mickey Leland, who joined us in the South on more than one occasion on some critical issues and 2 or 3 massive marches. Finally, let me say I'm going to take my seat because I'm tired and I want to save my energy for the next election. Because at the next election, we've got our work cut out for us. We must not let them turn back the clock. We've come too far, marched too long, prayed too hard, wept too bitterly, bled too profusely, and died too young to let them turn back the clock. God bless you.
It is never easy introducing a man who needs no introduction. Everyone in this room has read about Bloody Sunday. Some of you watched it unfold before your eyes on live television. Others of you were there. Congressman John Lewis was there, and he still bears the scars from that horrific day. At just 23 years of age, John Lewis became president of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. He was known as one of the Big Six leaders of the Civil Rights Movement and was a leading organizer of the March on Washington. 24 years later, he returned to Washington to take his seat representing Georgia's 5th Congressional District in the United States House of Representatives. John Lewis has shed blood and devoted his life in service to our nation. He is living history, but as we see each and every day, he's got plenty of fight left in him. This video will tell you where he's been and where he's going.
Growing up in Troy, Alabama, John Lewis asked his parents, why segregation? Why racial discrimination? They would tell him, don't get in trouble, don't get in the way. As a student at American Baptist Theological Seminary, he got in good trouble organizing sit-in demonstrations at segregated lunch counters in Nashville, Tennessee in 1960. In 1961, he volunteered to participate as a freedom rider, which challenged segregation at interstate bus terminals across the South. He was severely beaten by angry mobs, arrested, and spent nearly a month at the notorious Parchman Farm. From 1963 to 1966, Lewis was chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. As chairman, he became a nationally recognized leader, being named one of the Big Six leaders of the Civil Rights Movement. At only 23 years of age, he was a key organizer and speaker at the historic March in Washington on August 28, 1963. In 1964, John Lewis initiated the SNCC efforts to organize voter registration drives and community action programs during the Mississippi Freedom Summer. The following year, in 1965, Lewis, with Hosea Williams, led the Selma to Montgomery March across the Edmund Pettus Bridge to demonstrate the need for voting rights in the state of Alabama. The notorious events of Bloody Sunday and its graphic images of dogs, tear gas, and savage beatings at the hands of Alabama state troopers were broadcast nationwide on evening news programs as well as in newspapers and magazines. The shocking nature of the brutality let loose on the peaceful protesters helped spur Congress to pass the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Despite more than 40 arrests, physical attacks, and serious injuries, John Lewis remained a devoted advocate of the philosophy and discipline of nonviolence. In 1977, John Lewis was appointed by President Jimmy Carter to direct more than 250,000 volunteers of Action, the federal volunteer agency. John Lewis was elected to his first government office in 1981, serving as an at-large Atlanta City Council member until 1986, when he was elected to represent Georgia's 5th Congressional District. John Lewis is currently serving his 12th term. As a member of Congress, John Lewis has worked to preserve this important history, fighting for the creation of a Smithsonian Museum of African American History on the National Mall. Through his work, he has helped the city of Atlanta flourish, fighting for federal resources for schools, universities, and institutions. In 2006, John Lewis was instrumental in garnering an overwhelming majority in the Congress to reauthorize the Voting Rights Act. In February 2011, Congressman Lewis was awarded the nation's highest civilian award, the Presidential Medal of Freedom Award by President Barack Obama. His life and accomplishments continue to impact future generations in the continuing efforts for social justice. Tonight, the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation is proud to present the CBCF Chair's Phoenix Award for outstanding contributions and unwavering commitment to the African American community and the African diaspora to Congressman John Lewis.
Congressman knows how to be brief. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have another round of applause for all of our honorees? Such an inspiring ensemble of servant leaders.